Good evening. This video comes to you as a conversation piece ahead of our meeting in Charleville in March. I want to provide some context, give a quick overview of the program as it stands, and ask for any further feedback before we lock that program down tomorrow. We need to lock this program down tomorrow because we need to send out invites to external parties, to councils, to government, etc., to external interlocutors that are important to the critical conversations we're going to have at Charleville. Over the last couple of months, the organising committee has been putting together the calendar of events and the agenda for these meetings. We've had feedback about the challenges that some of you have as electeds in giving of your time to this critical week. Because of the season, because of commodity prices and other challenges around, giving of that time that week is a real challenge for some. So it was thought important to provide this video to give some context to the week and to seek any further feedback before we finalise that program tomorrow. By way of context, some 22 years ago, Larry Atkin and many other leaders in agriculture in Queensland put AgForce together. The sole intent of doing that, and the reason they put so much time and energy and lost so much skin in putting AgForce together, was the value they perceived in a united voice across different commodities. The constitution they set up, the organisation that flowed out of those hard conversations has lasted 22 years and provided powerful outcomes and continues to do so. And it does it from the perspective that we work collectively across commodities on those powerful cross-commodity issues, like regulation, like landscape concerns, like all of those big things we talk about, those big wins we have and we celebrate through our annual reports, like the one we put out recently for last year. AgForce also thrives because, as well as working together with a united voice, we respect individual commodities on commodity-specific issues. In respecting the Constitution, in respecting what Larry Atkin and co set up, we try and meet collectively once in a while to have those important cross-cutting conversations. Charleville is this year's or 2022's chance to do just that. At Charleville, which is roughly 12 months after we met in Toowoomba, we have some incredibly important strategic conversations that we need to have in driving the strategic plan for your organisation through the remainder of its currency over the next 2 years. For example, over the last 3 years, out of utter frustration with many other processes which have not put the landholder at the centre of the conversation, Peter Marnie, James Henderson and a number of others have built something called AgCare. AgCare, as far as we can see, is the only structured program in Australia that puts a landholder at the centre of a conversation about natural capital, that links that landholder with different markets, carbon markets, offset markets, etc. It's the only program that adheres to the UN guidelines and structures and allows you to tell your natural capital story from an accounting perspective, from a marketing perspective, allows you to link to markets, etc. It is important, with all that work having been done, your organisation AgForce now makes a decision about what to do with AgCare, whether to invest strongly in it in 2022 and bring it to market, or whether to put it back on the shelf. That's where we're at, a really important strategic conversation across all of our commodities in a united way. AgCare is commodity agnostic. We also need to have a conversation about our RTO status. The fact that we are the only state farming organisation with a registered training organisation status at a time when pathways for young people in agriculture have never been more in doubt, at a time when agricultural colleges in Queensland have been closing, at a time when the alternative structures do not cater for the needs of young people who want to join our great industry, and at a time when producers are struggling to get workers onto farms, struggling to get young people into agriculture. So your organisation, AgForce, has to decide what to do with its RTO ticket, whether to hold on to it which means significant investment in the RTO, an investment we haven't put into that since we've held that status, but remembering that if we give up our RTO status, we will never get it back. So whether we hold on to it and invest it, whether we sell it, it's worth quite a lot on the market to training providers who are looking for an RTO ticket in Queensland, or whether we think about some form of partnership where AgForce can hang on to what's important to influencing pathways, to influencing training, to encouraging and debating and working within the idea of providing pathways for young people into our great industry. We also have a couple of big decisions to make around our membership structure, coming out of a 6-month review which Will Wilson and the committee led last year, and thinking through our membership structure, how we charge members, how we can attract more members to our organisation. They are some of the big strategic conversations we need to have in Charleville. And we've organised it in a 3-part concurrent way over a day and a half to do that. An AgForce board meeting where we make some conscious decisions about how we deal with these big issues. Followed by an industry forum where we invite members across the broader southwest, the community, the councils, other interlocutors into a strong conversation having made those decisions. And then thirdly, where all of us as a broader collective sit down and have the strategic conversation that comes from the board decisions and the community event. Understand the parts we play as commodities in that whole. The reason why I spend time talking about that is that day and a half is critical to AgForce. It aligns to and respects the constitution of AgForce, the spirit in which Larry Atkins set it up at the start, and the real power of having that broader collective of electeds in the room at the one time. The 4 commodities, the committees, everybody having that powerful conversation that empowers us to spend the next 12 months back with our commodities and supporting the AgForce agenda, having had that decided and having contributed to that at Charleville. One of the challenges with all of this, and the reason for the video, is a challenge to people's calendars for giving it enough time, as well as having the commodity meetings either before or after the main event. We've taken some really strong and good feedback from the Sheep and Wool Board and from the Cattle Board and from others, and made some adjustments to try and reflect that feedback and to take as little of your time as possible, but importantly to make sure that as many of you as possible are in that room for that day and a half where we make those decisions, we engage the broader community, and then we collectively talk about the ramifications of those decisions and take it back. If when you see that tonight with this video, you have any more feedback to provide, please talk to your commodity director and pass that on by 10 a.m. tomorrow. And then please give as much of your time as you can to your organisation for those important decisions at Charleville. I hope this video has provided some context and allows you to think of that through tonight, think about your calendar and your contribution to Charleville. I welcome that feedback before 10 a.m. tomorrow. And the reason I'm being a little bit strict on the timeline is we need to get those placeholders out into diaries of external parties tomorrow to give them the weeks they need in planning so they can come and join us. The likes of Bob G from the Department of Agriculture and Fisheries, the ministers we can bring along, the local councils, the Southwest ROC, all those people that add enormous value to that conversation, we must get those save the dates out tomorrow. So just to give that context, hopefully that's useful. Please provide any feedback to them. We'll finalise the agenda tomorrow morning. Julie will send out a new registration form that reflects that, and I welcome and I look forward to seeing as many of you as possible, hopefully all of you, in Charleville across that core day and a half and around the commodity meetings and other conversations you want to have while we're together. Thank you.